What's going on, everybody? Doc, Average Gamer Guys, back yet again. Some more Escape from Tarkov content coming at you, and today, talking about the big crazy news that I don't think anybody expected to get. Um, we got a wipe coming up, and we got 12.9, and probably by the time you're watching this, or very, very shortly thereafter, the upload is gonna be pretty close to starting. So what I want to do for this one is I had a chance. They did a pretty quick, I'll call it podcast today. We'll cover a couple of things, nothing crazy in the podcast that we're not going to get from the patch notes. I'm gonna run through the patch notes really quick, talk a little bit about what I'm excited for, kind of the news and what all we're getting with 12.9. During that, we'll showcase a little bit of the footage that they showed for Woods. Woods is looking way different, in a good way. Huge. I think it's 2 times as big. So we got a lot to cover there, and we'll showcase at least a little bit of that, including the Vector, which they showed off a little bit as well coming in the wipe. So hopefully you guys are excited. I definitely know I'm excited. This is kind of an interesting early Christmas present for those of us in the United States, and big fingers crossed here, if everything with the patch can go smoothly. And obviously the servers are going to get a lot of love over the next couple of days because people are off and probably want to play some video games. But let's jump into it. So there is going to be a wipe. This is the biggest news, more so than 12.9 coming out. There's a wipe, and I don't know. It seems like I understand when you see what's in this patch why we're going to get a wipe. I fully get it. It makes perfect sense. It would have been something nice to get at least 2 more days, maybe. I feel like 3 days for a pre-wipe event is good. People go back and forth on it, so I understand some people just want the wipe to happen and are ready for it. I know I'm ready for it. I was pretty much done doing everything that I wanted to do and was pushing a lot of PvP. But I think the only thing I would say with this is I hope people get the opportunity to take advantage of the pre-wipe and the changes. Basically everything's opened up, so the stuff's a lot cheaper. You can spend the rubles that you have. If you're a newer player, gives you an opportunity to pick up at least some of the better gear. Not that you couldn't do that from the flea market, but you really have. There's no reason not to at least give it a try. Try out some of the meta guns, work with some of the builds. So I think a day, like a full day, is nice, and this came pretty quick, which it is what it is. That's all we can do. But I am excited for a wipe. I will say that, and I'm hoping this is going to be pretty good. So Woods expansion is definitely the big thing here. Like I said, we'll probably put some of that up on screen as we work through the rest of this. So just check it out. Just kind of follow along. They did showcase quite a bit of it. Just kind of run around the map. And again, the Vector is another thing coming up. So they talked about reworking the initial PMC gear sets. So the gear that you start the game with, as soon as you're going to boot up, as soon as the wipe happens, they're going to be a little bit of additional different gear. Hopefully a little bit more of a diversity, especially with maybe some attachments and some of those other things. I think that will help everybody, but also help out some newer players. I think the one thing that I wasn't always a fan of is you get a gun, you really don't have any good options to put sights on them. And I think that's a big thing, even not even a PK06, but just some kind of red dot, any of the simple optics that even the ones that you're going to be able to find and raid from scavs. Being able to throw those on a gun and use those, I think, is a big change for a lot of folks, because the iron sights, they take definitely some skill to be able to use in this game, especially if you're new and you're just kind of learning it. So interesting to see what this is, but it sounds like it's a little bit better. I don't want to say balanced, but just hopefully more diverse, which is nice. So there's customization. When you boot in this next wipe, you're going to be able to customize your character a little bit more. I think that's pretty cool. They've added the skill immunity. They've reworked the skill metabolism. Immunity, we don't really know what this is, but there's a lot of folks, I think, that think it's going to be related to kind of the poison and what they talked about with the cult and everything going on. So be interesting to see if this comes, or maybe comes a little bit later. Maybe it's not a full implementation of it, but at least getting the skill ready. So we'll be able to check that out as soon as, obviously, we get the wipe. Volume of steps and interaction with vegetation has been decreased. I think this is going to be interesting. So a little bit more stealth oriented, but I'm a little scared with this one too, if I'm being honest, because I think that's something that comes with time, comes with learning. But hopefully it all pans out. So this is another interesting one. Adding the chance for bleeds by certain types of ammunition. I think this is going to make some of the more flesh high flesh damage rounds and some of the rounds, maybe even some of the not as good rounds that we get kind of earlier in the game, a higher chance of bleed might make these a little bit more viable. So I like this. I think this is an interesting spin on ammo, and with the light and the heavy bleed mechanic, it makes a lot of sense. Face shields and glasses will now reduce the time of blindness effect from flashbang rounds and grenades. So this is a huge bump up for why you should wear sunglasses or glasses into a raid, and face shields, honestly. So I think that's a cool change, and these flashbang rounds I think is a hopefully a good adjustment for that as well. You're going to get letters for your first 7 days of playing, which sound like basically it's going to be shipments of gear. So if you really struggle in the first 7 days, just log in every day and get your gear, and hopefully that helps at least the newer players. I know it's going to help me, help anybody on a fresh wipe be able to use some of that stuff. You can purchase all from the traders now, which is really good. Some other stuff here for kind of quality of life improvements. Equipped armbands, interestingly enough, are now not lootable. So it's going to be a one-time purchase if you want to throw those on, and you can't be pulled off. I always like to pull those off in a raid after you kill a team, and then if somebody ends up killing you, then they're scared that there's more people around. So that's a little sad for me, I guess, but it is what it is. Makes sense. Those were never very expensive. So what else here? So this is a big one. A lot of people didn't, I don't know if a lot of people did this, but specifically throwing like a thermal sight on a specific type of mount, you could pull on and off your gun and put that mount into your container, and the container will check if the thermal was there. If you tried to just pull the sight off and put it in, you were never able to, but on certain mounts you could. So I like this change. Like if you're going to go in and you're going to try to do that task, or you're going to go in and you're going to use this sight, risk reward. You know, if you lose it, you lose it. If you die, hopefully you're running with a squad or a teammate and they can ditch it for you. I like this change. I think that's a really good change. So they showed a little bit, I think, of some of the new clothing. They did add a new streamer item, smokes a baklava. So add that to your list. If you're a Kappa hunter like myself, you've got another item to add to the list that I'm sure will be required. So changes to characteristics of a large number of weapon mods. This is another one of the really big changes, and they talked about this in the podcast a little bit. They rebalance a ton of stuff. So it's unfortunate because if you had some meta builds, I was building up my list of builds this wipe because all of that stuff will transfer over. So you shouldn't lose any of that, which is really nice. It basically all goes out the window now, I think. So we'll see what exactly the changes are. But I expect, hopefully, it makes a larger variety of mods usable. That's, I think, going to be the biggest thing for me. Time will tell, but they said they changed just a massive ton of them. So I think you got to get used to looking for some new stuff, and we're going to see very quickly kind of how mods and the meta changes with that, which is interesting. They talked about simplifying Jaeger quests and updating some quests, so change the execution conditions, starting conditions, and rewards. I like this. This is going to really make this wipe feel fresh. They talked about not necessarily making the things easier, but maybe more accessible. They tried to describe it. I'm not going to say they did a bad job, but I just think we've got to wait to see exactly what this is. What I do think is going to change from a rewards perspective is probably be a little bit more balanced as you work up through the progression of those tasks, which, again, not a bad thing, but it's going to be interesting to see the rewards. And they've got a lot more diversity now with weapons and attachments and stuff that they're bringing into the game. So it would be kind of nice to see a diversity of stuff, especially at the beginning. Maybe to give different weapons, give some different kit loadouts, those kinds of things. So simplifying Jaeger quests and changing up some of the quests, I think, is going to be really good. And we'll cover, if we can, on some future videos, any of those that are really significant. I would also expect that a lot of quests are going to remain the same. So if there's a quest that you particularly hate, I hate to say it, some of the Shooter Born in Heaven stuff probably isn't changing. Maybe they change the locations. Who knows? I could be eating my words here. But I think some of those hardcore tasks, they're going to remain the same. And some of the other ones, they're just going to mix them up a little bit, make them feel less, maybe repetitive is a good thing. I know they had talked about in a previous podcast wanting to get like reserve into the mix a little bit more. I think this change to woods is going to be really cool for a lot of the Jaeger quest line. So I think this wipe is going to feel really different, especially if you, again, are like me, who's going to go out and try to hunt his Kappa and get those quests done. So recoil reduction for skill-based recoil control skill and weapon. As it relates to practical skills, the bonus has been reduced. What I think they're trying to do here is basically make it so that's if you spam this or you go in and you really try to level this up quickly, that you're not as OP as you once were. I got mine up decently high this wipe. I definitely feel like it was it helped. I don't know. We'll see exactly what this reduction looks like. It is what it is. I think the other thing that's going to get a lot of community chatter, that's a nice way of saying being upset, is that character overweight now starts at 35 kilograms instead of 40. That's a pretty significant change. But what I do hope it helps with is leveling strength. We'll see, but getting to that overweight status sooner means that basically every step you're taking, all that running you're doing, especially if you pick up some gear or you kind of go loot lord and you grab a bunch of stuff, that may actually help you in the long run. So we'll see. We'll see if they end up doing anything with that. But hopefully that's a blessing. But hopefully it's a blessing in disguise, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then increased purchase limit for some ammo for some dealers. I think that just makes sense. They have to continue to balance this. I hope they look at balancing this, and they usually do a pretty good job of doing that kind of throughout. So the other stuff that we're talking about here, they've got new weapon mods. They've got a good mix of new weapons, and they've got the Chris Vector SMG 9x19 and 45. I'm so excited for this gun. I can't describe to you. Probably pop that up on screen of it being shot right now so you can take a look. You've got the SIG MCX, which is an assault rifle and 300 blackouts. 300 blackout is going to be a new round that we're going to get, so it's going to be interesting to see the stats on that. The 338 Lapua Magnum ammunition and 300 blackout obviously are both coming in. You've got this Mark 18 Mod 1, which they said is just going to be an absolute devastating weapon in that 338. They said it's going to be like really, really late Jaeger quest line to unlock it, and it makes sense. And we're also getting the UMP SMG, so we're seeing a lot of diversity in SMGs with the Vector and the UMP coming in, which is going to be really cool. I'm excited for that, and see if maybe we can not necessarily get away from the meta of the MP7, but diversify it a little bit. I think the Chris Vector is going to be interesting, especially when we unlock some of these things and taking that into certain types of raids, your factory runs, your labs runs, if you end up doing those. I think that that opens it up. At least it will for me if those weapons are modifiable. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. They fixed some stuff with the AI. They optimized a couple of things. It says optimization of sounds in RAM. Hopefully that helps with some of the sound issues folks have been having. They fixed the GL, so all you GL lovers out there, they fixed it that you can actually aim it with a reflex sight. I'll tell you that was really frustrating here. The later part of this wipe, didn't use that weapon a lot, but every once in a while when you do want to run it and get some of the memes, it was really frustrating not to be able to use the reflex sight on it. So a couple of other things here, fixed. Things are fixed. We'll see. Hopefully that's the case. Weapon presets. It was impossible to delete the overwritten preset. Wrong mods being installed in weapon. I know this was a frustration for me in Sloth quite a bit, was just this never felt like it really worked. And that's a feature that is really a lot of time saving. It's once you get a good build and you're comfortable with it, you get the money to run it, you've got to be able to use this feature or you spend a lot of time setting your weapons up. And then a whole bunch of other stuff. So found and rate status, certain things, certain pricing being done, camera issues, missing messages, server errors. There's lots of fixes, localization fixes, and we've got some translations here. So that's a quick rundown of 12.9. That's the patch notes. That's some highlights from the podcast as well. What I pulled away, again, hopefully you enjoyed some of the discussion as well as some of what we were able to show from the Woods expansion and that new Vector. Again, surprise patch. Merry Christmas, I guess. Hopefully it goes, I hope for them, for BSG, I hope it goes really smoothly and I hope we're able to get in. Servers are ready to go for all the people that are going to want to play, because this is a pretty big patch. Woods expansion, a lot of changes, some quality of life stuff. I think it's going to be pretty good. I'm excited for it, and I think a lot of players are ready to kind of get the fresh start. And if you're new, this is a great time. This is the perfect time to get in and play, because you're not going to have these super juice lords running around doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So enjoy it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If it was helpful for you, please throw a like, throw a comment down below. Stay tuned. We're going to have a couple of other videos coming up. I had some stuff on deck prior to this wipe announcement that we're going to kind of space out, some weapon testing, some other things. I'm also going to talk a little bit about maybe just what I would prepare for a wipe, what I think is going to be helpful, and things that you can do. So I'll give some kind of pre-wipe tips, and hopefully you guys find that helpful if you're new as well. So I've been Doc, Average Gamer, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.